ready? Good afternoon. I guess it's almost this evening. I'd like to call to order the City of Leawood Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for June 28th, 2023. Could we have roll call, please?
Members Munson,
Present.
Dunn, Dr. Pepys, Clausen.
Here.
Hawk, Farrington,
Here.
Bussing. Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the May 24th meeting.
I move the minutes be approved as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion for approval of the minutes from the last meeting and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. The minutes are approved as written. We have a number of cases tonight in both old business and new business. We have one case, case 37-2023, that's continued until presumably next month. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
So since we have so many cases, I would ask that the applicants please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. And that should be plenty to present your case. And if you would keep time and we can move right along. The first case is this is an old business case. This is case 35-2023. Singlai Shen, owner, request for a variance to the build line in accordance with LDO section 16-4-9.3D in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 4117 West 110th Terrace. Does staff have a report, please?
The applicant would like to construct a new fence on two sides of the rear yard that would be in line with the neighbor's existing fence. The fence would not connect to that neighbor's fence.
Okay. Are there questions for staff about this case? Is the applicant here? I am. You may come to the lectern and give us your name and address, please. And
Sure. Xingli Shen. I live at 4117 West 110th Terrace. It's my
okay.
home.
You may present your case.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do is build a fence along that rear property line facing College Boulevard. It's a busy street, and we have young children who like to wander around in the yard. And so what we'd like to do is build a fence to be able to fence off that rear part of my property. This fence would be, along that property line along College Boulevard. And then in order to kind of connect to be able to keep my kids in, it would go along the east end of the property as well. The ordinance right now that we're trying to get a variance, would like to get a variance on, states that the fence has to have an offset from the street about 35 feet. And the variance we'd ask for is to build along the property line. The reasons for this are that this would be in keeping with the rest of my neighbors along College, where their fences are, just the appearance of that line of fences. Also, it would be, that offset would also otherwise cut quite a bit into my yard, and it'd be unsightly, and it would also limit the ability of my children to play in the backyard safely. I also, I think, have before, and I'm not sure if it's be heard at this point or later, the request for a height of the fence. That'll be next.
That'll be
okay.
the next case,
so,
yeah.
But for this current motion, so the main reasons, again, are it would be in line with my neighbors. And also and the main goal, of course, is for my children to be able to play safely in the backyard.
So Wade, do you have any exhibits you could show us, just to?
If I can get there you go. The green portion is part of what the variance would be for. that would be placed on that rear property line. And then it's roughly that box is, of course, the north and the west side in that box is not the fence. It's just, that's the area that the variance would apply to.
So the top of the box would be the 35-foot line?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Staff, were you referring to this trapezoid, this red trapezoid?
Correct, yeah. That's the area affected that would require the variance.
Thank you.
Staff have any comments on this?
The neighbor to the east does have a 6-foot fence in the same location. They were approved for a fence height exception, but they've never gone before the board for the placement of the fence. So maybe when that fence was built, the LDO was different and they didn't require a variance. But yeah, they want this fence to be in line with the fence that's already there.
So the neighbor's fence does not extend to the property line, right?
It does, the one to the east.
Oh, it does,
Yeah, it does.
okay.
Well, I'm sorry, it extends to the rear property line. It does not extend to their side or west property line.
That's what I
So
mean,
that's
yeah.
why the fences would not hook up.
So you're saying there would be a gap there?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
How wide would the gap be?
I'd say it's probably 30 feet.
30 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Interesting.
Okay. Are there any questions, additional questions for the applicant? So, I mean, so to the east, most of the neighbors to the east have fence along that property, along that line, right?
Correct.
Property line.
Yep.
And there is a stone fence, right?
There is a stone wall, and then on top of that wall, I do have a picture. There's probably a 4-foot safety fence to keep people from, probably children, from falling off the wall.
Okay.
Is this College Boulevard in front of this
Correct.
property? Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for staff. So the fence was set behind that?
Yeah, they cannot hook up to that.
Right.
Not
so-
the safety fence.
So from the street view, you're going to see the rock wall with the safety fence, and then set back from that on the property line is where the wood fence would be?
Correct, yeah.
I might clarify, this safety fence is not actually on our
Ma'am,
property.
if you want to speak,
Oh,
you
I'm
have to give
sorry.
us your name and address. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm Laura Harrington. We're married, 4117 West 110th Terrace, yeah. So the safety fence stops right at our property line on the west side. And so that doesn't extend. Now, we do have the rock wall on our property, but we don't have the safety fence extending along our property line.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, about that telephone pole is where their property ends. I just wanted to put that picture on there so that you knew their fence would not connect to that fence.
So I'm guessing if you had to conform to the ordinance and had to move the fence back to the 35-foot, that would probably impact a lot of your landscaping, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Are there any questions, additional questions by the board? Thank you. Is anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this application? Mr. Gibbs, please give us your name and address.
My name is Phil Gibbs. I'm the next door neighbor.
Which side? Which side?
To the east.
Okay.
And that's the fence, my fence you're talking about.
Okay.
I think what they're doing is the right thing to do, guys. And they got two of the smartest little kids you ever saw, and they don't want to get out on College Boulevard and have a problem. And the police department does a damn good job of keeping traffic slowed down when they're there. But as soon as the black and white goes, there they go by. Yeah. So, their daughter the other day was out in the backyard, and I said, "What you doing?" She says, "I'm on an exploration." I've never, exploration, that's a longer word than I've ever used in my life. And she's not even in kindergarten yet. This take care of these kids. I think their fence is gonna look like our fence. And we got a 30-foot gap, and I'll mow on this side of the fence, and he mows on his side.
So you're going to close in the gap?
No, I'm not supposed to in the gap. I gotta get around there so I can go out behind my fence. So
Okay.
They've done the right thing. Let's take care of these kids.
Okay, all right.
Mel
Thank you.
Hawk, how you?
What's your name?
Anyone else that wish to speak for or against this application? Notices went out, correct?
Correct. No calls or complaints.
Well, this is a variance, and therefore, we have to go through the 5 factors, and we have to, as a board, we have to vote on each factor in the affirmative before we can support a motion for approval. So we will, as a board, we will talk first about the uniqueness of the property. Discussion by the board.
I don't know whether it meets the exact requirements of what uniqueness is, but the situation is such that even if it didn't match it correctly, the case makes its own case, I think.
What they propose makes sense. So I think we have to use some judgment rather than,
If we use the right judgment, yes.
I think this also falls in line with the 3 lots that we've discussed in previous meetings. This having it being on a cul-de-sac and having a street to the front and then a street behind it. There's some safety concern, and there are other properties like this in Leawood. However, you know, College Boulevard is a pretty busy street, and that security wall on the backside, stone wall, is a little bit different situation. So I think, and if you look at the overall Ames map, it's kind of a triangular shaped lot, which kind of lends to a different, the backyard kind of comes to a point, flat side, so it's not your traditional square lots in Leawood.
Okay. All those who feel that the uniqueness criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have agreed that we met the first factor. The second is rights of adjacent property owners.
But we heard from one, and he seems to be enthusiastic about it, so I would say it meets that.
Okay, all right. Sir, we've already, you had an opportunity to talk, and we're past that now, I'm sorry. You have had no responses?
Correct. No complaints either.
Okay. All those who feel that the rights of adjacent property owners criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have voted in the affirmative on the second factor. And third is hardship. The applicant states that the request is needed to prevent an unsightly gap in the fence. I think that is reasonable. Other comments about hardship?
well, I don't know if it's hardship, but we're talking about children being able to wander into an area that's very congested with the College Boulevard being ran through that boulevard. So if we can protect children or their friends, I think that makes sense.
Other comments? All those
Well-
who, yes?
It says in the, I assume these are staff comments, the applicant states the request is needed so an unsightly gap is not created along College Boulevard. Unfortunately, none of the adjacent property owners have fences that extend to her property, and a gap will still be present. So what are we talking about here? Where's the hardship?
Well, I think there's still going to be a gap,
Yep.
but a smaller gap. So maybe the adjacent owners at some point will fill in the gap but I think I think the hardship, though, if they had to conform to the LDO requirements, it'd be a hardship because existing landscaping.
Yeah, that is, but this doesn't mention that, so that's what bothers me about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and, Mr. Chairman, if you look at I guess in our packet, it's the photo from Wade that you had provided, and it shows that stone wall. You can see where the gap is between the adjacent neighbor on the east side. There's actually 2 trees in that area. One looks relatively large that, I mean, even though it's a gap, it's still, shaded by large trees and probably won't be that noticeable. And if it's 30 feet wide, it's not narrow by any means.
All those who feel that the hardship criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We voted in the affirmative on the third factor. The fourth is public safety and general welfare. I think it's clear that having a fence in that area where you have children would be a positive aspect. Also, notifications went out to all the adjacent landowners and property owners. So, any other comments about this fourth criterion?
It will be better with the fence because of the children.
All those who feel that the public safety and general welfare criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have agreed on the fourth factor. The last is spirit and intent. Comments about spirit and intent?
Mr. Chairman, I'll comment. I feel that it meets the spirit and intent of the LDO. The adjacent property has a fence on the property line. Although the one on the west side does not, but it looks like a pool with a fence around the pool, which just shows a variation in openness, and then the fencing on adjacent properties, which kind of lends to the unique character of Leawood itself. So it meets spirit and intent.
Other comments? All those who feel that the fifth factor, spirit and intent criterion, has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. We have voted in the affirmative on all 5 factors, therefore we can support a motion for approval in this case.
Mr. Chairman, in case 35-2023-4117 West 110th Terrace, request for variance to the build line for the placement of a fence on the through lot in accordance with the LDO section 16-4-9.3D in an R1 district. I move approval.
We have a motion for approval in case 35-2023. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor of this motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. Thank you. And the next case is yours also. This is case 36-2023, Singlay Shin owner. This is a request for a fence height exception in accordance with LDO section 16-4-9.4 in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 4117 West 110th Terrace. Does staff have a report, please?
The applicant would like to construct a new 6-foot-tall fence on the south and southeast property line. The fence would provide a barrier to College Boulevard.
Are there questions for staff by the board?
I guess is it a wood fence? It is wood?
Yes, sir. If I can get it put up on the screen, that's what the fence will look like.
Okay. All right. You may present your case. Again, you have to give us your
Thank you,
name and
board
address.
members. Yeah, Xingli Shan, 4117 West 110th Terrace. So just, my neighbors have 6-foot fences, and I like to also have a 6-foot fence in keeping with the appearance of the neighborhood. Additionally, I feel like 6-foot might be safer for my kids when they're playing in the backyard, both from, other people being able to look in, and also from them not being able to climb out. So that's why the 6 foot.
Okay. Are there questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this application? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, in case 36, 2023, 4117 West 100 Terrace, request for a fence height exception in accordance with the LDO section 16-4-9.4 in an R1 district. I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion for approval in case 36-2023 and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. The next case this evening, the case 37, as I indicated before, has been continued until next meeting. So we will move on to case 38-2023. That is Melissa McManaway, builder, and Jimmy and Jessica Loveland, owners. This is a request for a variance to the rear build line for the placement of a outdoor kitchen in accordance with LDO section 16-4-1.3B4 in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 14912 Reinhardt Street. The staff have a report, please.
An outdoor kitchen has been placed on the rear patio without a permit. It was placed 20.3 feet from the rear property line. The Leawood Development Ordinance requires it to be 25 feet from the rear property line. Therefore, a variance for 4.7 feet is necessary to allow the kitchen to remain.
So the kitchen has been constructed.
I'm sorry, say again?
The kitchen has been constructed?
Yes, yeah, it's in place now.
Okay. All right. Are there questions for staff about this case?
Question, the natural question is, how did this get built without a permit?
It's a new home being built, and they probably just placed it on there, and the inspector found it, I would assume, on the final inspection.
So the builders and the homeowners assumed that it was just part of their construction of their house? Is that what happened?
Probably, but you'll have a chance to ask them.
They can tell us here.
Okay.
One other question. One of my concerns about these, and it always has been about these outdoor fireplace stones and so forth, is there any structures within the fire department's concern about sparks and so forth?
Not on this, because it is a kitchen. If it were an outdoor fireplace,
Okay.
yeah, yes.
But the picture shows it as a, what is the structure sitting in front of this building right here? Is that the kitchen? Or is that the fireplace? What?
That it's, the kitchen is set into that stone structure.
Oh,
So he's got a cooktop.
There's no top to it.
Correct, yeah.
Where does the exhaust, smoke, fumes, et cetera go?
Well, it'd be like a grill, so it's just right, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Other questions for staff? Is the applicant here? You may come to the lectern and give us your name and address.
My name is Mike Martin. I'm the builder for 14912 Reinhardt Street.
Okay. Is that your address?
It's not my address.
What's your address?
My personal address?
Yes.
1617 South Sleepy Hollow Circle, Olathe, Kansas.
Okay, all right. You may present your case.
Okay, so in answer to your question, it is only a grill and a small cooktop area. There's no kitchen per se, but it has to be labeled as a kitchen. So yes, and you were right. We built it as part of the original building permit. And then when we had the house for the final inspections, when Jody, the inspector, said, I think we need a different permit for this.
They said surprise, huh?
Yes, yes. It probably would have been fine. However, the cul-de-sac lot pushes the backyard a little bit closer to the rear property line, and then so it encroached further than the 5 feet allowable into the 30-foot setback. So it's actually the 20.3 feet is the patio that it's on. The actual block for the barbecue grill is another foot beyond that, or closer to the house, so it's really only encroaching about 3.5 feet of that structure anyway.
Help me with the placement. We're talking about 5 feet. If it were within, what's behind it? What is in the rear of this that would cause a concern?
I have some more pictures if you would like to see.
I've been out there, but
There's
I'm real
nothing
lost.
behind it. There's plantings to hide it from any view, things like that. But there's nothing around it. It sits out on the patio.
The photographs would be helpful, I think.
Yeah.
The neighborhood pool will be going behind. He butts up to the neighborhood pool property.
Oh, okay.
Here's an up close what it looks like. That gives you a little detail of what's behind it. It does not attach to the house. It's about a foot away from the house, from the, this, about a foot away from their porch. And then this would be, it's just a cooktop space. So to the right is just a small cooktop space, and then the other gap that's above those double doors is, it's just a typical built-in grill. So there's no, it's not an open flame, it's not charcoal, it's just a grill. So about where the 25-foot setback portion would reach would be about 4 inches into the actual grill itself, so it's not a whole lot of space.
Is the heat source such that you don't have to use charcoal?
No, it is not a charcoal grill at all.
Okay.
It is only
So
a gas grill.
Less likelihood of sparks and so forth.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's natural gas
yes,
or propane?
it's natural gas. It would be connected to the house. We have not connected it to the house yet. Once we failed the final inspection and started going through the permit process.
Okay, thank you.
So Wade, do you know what the intent of this requirement in the LDO was, what the intent was?
Well, they want any open flame as far away as the neighbors as they can. They do allow 5 feet, but even with the 5-foot allowance, it's still too close to the rear property line.
Okay. Now, directly behind your property here, what, could you show us what's behind there?
Directly, did you have that shot? Looking from the street behind, all of this right here is the future pool. It's being constructed right now, is the neighborhood pool
Okay.
and parking lot. And I don't know how close that is to the fence. It's pretty close.
Yeah, we won't actually know until the structure's up, so.
That looks to be the pool house because there's footings and stuff like that.
Okay.
Does the neighborhood pool have some limitations as to its placement?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it'll have to meet all the setback requirements.
And that's directly behind? Directly behind where this kitchen is?
It's directly beyond the house, so yes, yes.
It is, okay. Okay. Okay.
And that's the only thing behind it. There's no other houses behind it. It's a kind of a lone spot on that cul-de-sac.
So if you had to conform to the ordinance, what would you do?
Tear it all down, and I don't know where we would put it at that point, because it's, I don't know. It's a really small, since it's a large house on a oddly shaped cul-de-sac lot, the rear of the yard is really pretty narrow. I believe that whole back patio is only 12 feet from the house, and and that's already encroaching into that setback. So it would be a odd placement.
Well, the lot is kind of a unique shape, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So you're kind of limited on how you place the house, right?
correct.
Are there any other viable options than to displacement?
Yeah, I mean, there's other places he can put it. I don't know, it won't be the choice place to put it, but, I mean, yeah, he's got choices available.
I mean, if you put it on the side yard, I'm not sure you could do that either.
Well, you want it close as you can to the house for purposes of using it.
Interesting. Well, we have to go through the 5 factors here. So uniqueness is one we have trouble with sometimes, and also hardship. Could you address those?
Uniqueness, I would say that just the way the lot sits, it's difficult to get something, you put that somewhere else on that patio or anywhere else in the house, it's going to be in the view of windows and everything else. So it's a unique shaped lot that created some issues that we didn't know were going to be issues. So that would be a little bit unique.
So when you initially submitted your plans to the city for a permit,
For the original house permit?
yeah,
Okay.
did it show a kitchen?
No.
Didn't?
No, this is something that it started as a spec house, and when the homeowners bought it, they added the kitchen.
Okay.
And at that point, didn't know there would be an issue.
Good. Well, and could you address hardship?
Well, the hardship at this point would be the cost to demo the whole thing, probably have to remove the patio or extend it, and all their plantings that they put in is
Good.
quite a few thousands of dollars at this point. But that's your
So to
call.
me, Mr. Chairman, the building or the element that they're putting in there would be, to me, much more safe than a typical barbecue grill you can go buy at the hardware store and use charcoal briquettes and so forth and so on. This would seem to be much safer.
Yes.
And as far as hardship, who knows?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this application? This is your opportunity. Or if not, then we have to go through the 5 factors, like we did in the previous case. The first is uniqueness of the property. Discussion by the board?
Well, it points out in the in the remarks here that the homes on a cul-de-sac, which makes a good percentage of footage away from your yard, is making it unique. Yes, it does. It does cause problems for it by being on a cul-de-sac. That's for sure.
Well, I think the lot is oddly shaped, and it certainly it's certainly limited where they could place a house.
Yeah.
Other comments? All those who feel that the uniqueness criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We voted in the affirmative on the uniqueness factor. Rights of adjacent property owners, no one was here to speak for or against this, and all the letters went out, presumably, right?
Correct, and no calls or complaints have been received.
Do we really have any adjacent property owners nearby?
There are a few, well, actually, all the lots are spoken for. Some of them are owned by builders, but no one has called to complain about the request.
Okay. Any comments? All those who feel the second factor, rights of adjacent property owners criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. we felt that the second factor had been met. The third is hardship.
Mr. Chairman, I'll speak about hardship. This one's a little bit unique because the builder has submitted for a permit without having this in the design initially because it was a spec home. And it evolved into, obviously, a homeowner that became involved and added certain components to the project. So not knowing that there needed a separate permit, you now know that for the future. I would like to state that, yes, there are other locations that this could be moved to, but there would be a hardship at the point that they're now to tear it down and rebuild it. It would affect the patio. If you look at the back placement of the patio and where the outdoor kitchen is, it's right off the covered porch. It's probably right coming off of a kitchen area for usage, and if you were to move it either to the west side around, it's kind of, I'm assuming those are bedrooms, not looking at the floor plan. And if you move it over to the garage side, that's even farther away from the kitchen. When you do that, you have to run gas lines, because it's gas, and the farther you run the gas lines, the more expensive it is to pipe gas to it.
Sure.
And since they haven't done that yet, it's smart to wait and see for the approval, but it does create a hardship if we were to vote for this to be moved in multiple ways, not only for the tear down, but if they have to place it somewhere else, they're gonna have to place longer gas lines, and that's gonna be a bigger expense as well.
Other comments? All those who feel that the hardship criterion has been satisfied in this case, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. We voted in the affirmative on the third factor. And the fourth is public safety and general welfare. I understand that the ordinance, why the ordinance has the requirement of 25 feet from the property line. I think what the applicant is proposing here is a safe situation. It's safe design.
Safe.
Since it really doesn't have a charcoal grill with requiring a chimney, it's just a simple gas grill. So I think this criterion is met. All those who feel that the fourth factor, public safety and general welfare criterion, has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have voted in the affirmative on the fourth factor. The last is spirit and intent. Comment by the board.
I feel it meets the requirements as stated in the comments.
Any other comments by the board?
Well, and you also, when you look at the pictures and the drawings that we've seen, you know, it looks like it absolutely fits, and it really doesn't make any difference.
All those who feel that the spirit and intent criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. We have voted in the affirmative on all five factors, therefore we can support a motion for approval in this case. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move approval, excuse me, of case 38-2023, address 14912 Reinhardt Street. Request for a variance to the rear build line for the placement of an outdoor kitchen in accordance with the LDO, section 16-4-1.3, parent B, parent 4 in an R1 district.
Second.
We have a motion for approval in case 38-2023 and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. The next case, next two cases, are by the same applicant, but we will touch base on we'll do the first case, which is case 39-2023, Yaw and Carlene Sarpong, owners. This is a request for an exception to the height limit in accordance with LDO section 16-2-5.3 F1 in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 11229 Rosewood Street. The staff have a report, please.
The applicants are wanting to finish the attic space of the home. The addition would add a new roof line that would be 1 foot 11.5 inches over the maximum permitted.
And this is an exception.
What was that?
This is an exception.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Are there any questions for staff in this case? Is the applicant here? You may give us your name and address,
Chris Bennett, 9251 Twilight Lane.
or both names if you both are going to talk.
Carleen Sarpong, 11229 Rosewood Street.
Good. You may present your case.
Yeah, like was stated before, we're just asking to finish the portion of the existing attic. And in doing so, we're wanting to have adequate ceiling height in the attic space. So it requires us to revise the ridge line. In order to do that, it'll just raise it up a foot, 11 inches. I know
Okay.
the maximum building height exception is 2 feet, so we're just under that.
Okay, so the picture here shows us what the intent is. So you're raising the roof line and so you're almost 2 feet over the maximum, right?
Oh, almost, yes.
Almost.
We're approaching it. We're trying to maintain the existing slope of the front of the roof, so we're just extending the front of the roof, and in the back, we're getting up to, so we can have an 8-foot ceiling in the attic space.
Good.
And meeting that, so in doing so, the 2 points meet and raise it.
Sir, in that sketch that I'm looking at the bottom figure, which is the front, which is the back? How's,
The front's to the right,
to the right?
yeah.
Okay, and the.
The
according-
rear of the house
And according
is-
to the figure, the slope is from the front to the back, is that
Yes.
correct? All right,
The-
and your roof line would go up another, whatever,
1 foot,
1
11
foot.
inches, yeah, to the ridge,
11 and a half inches or 2 feet?
yeah.
Okay, that's about that much. What do you think, you can see that from, how far back from the street are you?
The front of the house, I believe, is 35 feet to the garage.
35 feet,
So to the actual front of the house is about 45 feet,
45?
front
Okay.
step.
So somebody riding by on a galloping horse probably wouldn't notice that, would they?
I don't know if people walking by would notice it, so.
Okay.
Are there questions, additional questions by the board for the applicant? This is an exception, so we don't have to go through the 5 factors on a case like this. So, any questions by the board? Thank you. Is anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this application? This is your opportunity. Please give us your name and address.
Hey, my name's August Patterson. My address is 11225 Rosewood Street. I live immediately north of the
Okay.
house.
Okay.
I have no objections to what they're proposing. I'm also the president of the HOA for Leewood Country Manor, where the resident is located. And we have not received any concern from any of the residents. I know the Sarpong sent out notices of this to all the nearby residents, and they all had a chance. I see one here, so she might add something to this. But I did want to take this opportunity to try to get some information from you all. Reviewing our HOA rules and restrictions, we have a, I don't know if this will show up or not. We have a rule that says any residence erected on any of the said lots shall not be more than 2 stories in height, provided, however, that if it is more than 2 stories in height, that there would be a consent in writing given by the HOA board to allow it. The questions we are trying to figure out as the HOA is, does this classify as more than 2 stories? Does the HOA also have to give consent in writing? We have 180 houses in our neighborhood, and once this is done, we'll probably get some questions from other homeowners, so I'm really here just to ask some questions.
I think our traditional standing on this, and I can be corrected, is that your HOA organizes its rules and so forth, but their activities are not part of our determinations. Is that right, Chairman?
Yeah, that's correct. We judge each case in accordance with the LDO requirements. We don't really care what your HOA requirements are.
Correct. We always, when there's something that comes to our rules and restrictions, we wait for the city to make a decision, and then we act. But that's usually our requirement first, is get city approval. The only questions I had is the city going to classify this home as a 2-story or 3-story home after this work?
Mr. Chairman, I think in other situations where we've had, there's been homes that are 2-story homes where they finished attic space, but it has not become a 3-story. It's still classified as a 2-story with a finished attic space.
Okay.
That's what,
Good.
I'm not
but I mean, that
sure.
doesn't really fall underneath our LDO.
Okay.
That's something you could probably check with realtors
Okay.
in the
Yeah, and
neighborhood and how they list those.
what I've heard is it would probably still be listed as a 2-story, so.
Or the county. The county will make a determination for how many stories it is.
Okay, all right. The other thing that I was hoping to get some information on is, when a neighbor has put up a 6-foot fence, they've had to get in writing consent from other homeowners. Is there any reason why this doesn't fall under that same approach?
If that's in your homes owner associations, no.
No.
Then we vote solely based on the LDO and evaluate.
Okay, all right, that's all I had.
Okay?
Thanks.
All right. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against this application? If not, is there a motion by the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve case 39-2023, address 11229 Rosewood Street. Request for an exception to the height limit in accordance with the LDO, section 16-2-5.3, parent F1 in an R1 district.
Second.
We have a motion for approval in case 39-2023 and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. And there is one more case from the same applicants. This is case 40-2023. Yaw and Carlene Sarpong, owners. This is a request for an exception to the maximum allowable square footage on a lot in accordance with LDO section 16-2-5.3 F2 in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 11229 Rosewood Street. Does staff have a report, please?
The applicants are wanting to finish the attic space of the home. The proposed project will be 283 square feet, or 6.3% over what the LDO permits.
We're not changing the footprint of the house, though.
That's correct.
But we're adding floor space. I mean, we're adding area.
Actually, they're adding livable space. The space is already there, it's just not finished.
Okay.
Attic space.
So the limit for an exception is what, 20%?
20%?
Yes, sir.
20%, so we're at 6.4, so it's clearly an exception. Questions for staff? The applicant here wishes to speak again? Again, we need name and address.
Chris Bennett, 9251 Twilight Lane.
Carlene Sarpong, 11229 Rosewood Street.
We're asking for the maximum amount of square footage allowable just to finish a portion of the attic. That's what we're asking for, so. Goes hand in hand with the first one.
Okay.
We're making a family room for our baby.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. When we vote on this, we're only voting on the 283 square feet and the 6.3% over, not acceptance of a full 9, any more than that.
No, that we're just voting on the limits that were provided in the application, right?
Just want to confirm that.
Yep, okay. Questions for the applicants? Thank you. Is anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this application? Please give us your name and address.
I'm Annie Best. I live at 5178 West 114th Place. The entire backside of my house looks at this home from the south.
Okay.
I understand why they're trying to do what they're trying to do. I just would like to go on the record as saying they bought a home that had been flipped by a flipper who's done several homes in our development without permits. This one was without permits and very poorly. And they moved in and had to redo a great deal of it. And as a result, are blowing up to do this addition on the top, on the backside, to give us now 4 elevations. It is not their fault. The fault is that all this happened right over here without permits. And that is unfortunate. That's my only comment. They're lovely people. They're just trying to make good on a bad situation.
So in your area, you're saying that there have been cases where flippers come in without?
No, this flipper has flipped more than one home in our development.
Oh, this
And
one.
this one has been a long and painful, like the other, painful flip. And it was done so shoddy that they've had to come in and redo a great deal of it. And as a result of all this additional expense on top of their home that they purchased in good faith, they're finishing this off. I just think the bottom line is there needs to have been more oversight for permits. That's my comment.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any comments by the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to kind of speak on this one. This one, it's one of those LDOs that, it's set in place so that we, as a board, look at the LDO in place, the maximum allowable square footage. If you read the criteria, is not more than 20% of the maximum square foot allowed pursuant to the ordinance. So basically, huge additions are not added on, and it doesn't make it look like it is out of place in context with the neighbors around it. In this case, we're looking at this at a small percentage. This is 6.3%. It's 283 square feet. It's all within the footprint of the home, so it's not like you're adding an appendage outside. So we recognize that, and that's where we as a board can look at that and make a determination. This may fall outside of the LDO. So I just want to state that, because you having a homeowners association board member here, knowing that you may have other neighbors coming and asking for additional space, we typically aren't going to approve every case before us, especially if it's outside the footprint or a large amount of square footage. So I just want to state that.
Good point.
It's a case-by-case scenario that we look at.
Does anyone else wish to speak for or against this application? If not, is there a motion by the board?
I move to approve case 40-2023-11229 Rosewood Street. Request for an exception to the maximum allowable square footage on a lot in accordance with the LDO section 16-2-5.3, parent F, parent 2, in an R1 district.
Second.
The motion for approval in case 40-2023 and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. The next case this evening is case 41-2023, Kevin and Sarah Oakleaf owners. This is a request for an exception to the maximum allowable square footage on a lot in accordance with LDO section 16-2-5.3 F2, in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 2918 West 93rd Street. Does staff have a report, please?
The applicants are wanting to add a new addition to the home. The lot accommodates 4,050 square feet. A request for an additional 76 square feet, or 1.8%, is necessary to construct the addition as shown on the plan.
Are there questions for staff on this case?
This looks like a repeat of so many that we've already seen. It's less than 20%. I again would submit that the city or other people involved should take a look at this so we don't have to burden the taxpayers or the citizens with coming before us.
They could, it would require a change to the LDO.
It's cheaper for us to do this, for the city, I mean.
Probably.
Than to have the staff involved in that. Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant here? Please give us your name and address, and you may present your case.
My name is Kevin Oakley. I live at 2918 West 93rd Street. We've lived in the home about 10 years. It was a home built in 1956. We moved in 2012 and did an addition in 2015, but for all intents and purposes, it's on the same foundation as a home built in 1956. So the changes we're making is we're updating the master bedroom to add more closet space, and the garage space we've got now is a 1956 garage. It doesn't fit 2 full-size vehicles and the full-size trash cans we all have to deal with now. So we're adding the garage space as well. So that we're asking for the 76 square feet. Like I said, it's I think a 1.8% over the maximum allowable square footage. It has all the setbacks from the neighboring properties. And we've had a couple pictures that we added for a street view of kind of the surrounding homes. I think the intent is we liked the character of our neighborhood and we wanted to continue with that. And so you can see mostly one-story homes. And the next photo is looking directly at the home, and the garage addition being added to it will not be visible from the street. The Leawood Homeowners Association would not approve it if it was visible from the street. So we've tried to stay in the character of the neighborhood and keeping a low profile for the addition. We've talked to all of our neighbors. We did send out 23 notifications based on our lot being in a cul-de-sac. And so all of our neighbors we've talked to have been supportive. I think the intent is to put in a pool as well, so I think they're excited about that. So.
Okay. Are there questions for the applicant? Looks like a nice project.
That'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this application? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, in case 41-2023, 2918 West 93rd Street, request an exception to the maximum allowable square footage on a lot in accordance with the LDO section 16-2-5.3F2 in an R1 district. I move approval.
Second.
Did you second? Dana seconded? Okay. We have a motion for approval in case 41-2023 and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. The next 2 cases are by the same applicant. We will address the first case, 41-2023, Ann Agan, owner. This is a request for a variance to the front build line in accordance with LDO section 16-2-5.3D in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 8311 Winonga Road. The staff have a report, please.
The applicant is needing to repair and replace portions of existing legal non-conforming walls. The project has significant upgrades that increase the amount of encroachment. A variance for 5 feet is requested to complete the project.
Okay. So in this case, this is the case where the foundations are being replaced, right?
Yes, sir.
In exactly where they're in the same location,
That's correct.
right? Okay. Okay. So, the setbacks were deficient as it was built, correct?
They may have been legal when the home was built. Let's see, what was it,
1969.
1969?
I mean, they're legal non-conforming,
Correct, yeah.
is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
They are deficient now.
okay. Other questions for staff?
This structure was built in 1969, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's what it says, so, okay.
So it's been in place for 54 years. Well, I'll ask the applicants when they get
Okay.
here about what caused the settling. So,
The applicant may, if you're both going to talk, please give us your names and address.
I'm Ann Egan at 8311 Wananga Road, Leawood.
Okay,
Michael Blackledge, Piper Wind Architects at 2121 Central, Suite 143, Kansas City, Missouri.
okay, all right.
As the staff report mentioned, homeowner Ann Egan just recently purchased the project or house and is making improvements. And the southwest wall, which has the west corner and the south corner that are over the setback lines, has some structural issues, as well as the stud wall that's on top of it has some buckling. So that section is being cut out to be replaced and that wall reframed. The roof
So the
line.
wall it's going to be in the same place?
Correct.
Correct.
Now, you'll see a little bump out. We are proposing partially midway, about a third of the way, but that's not relevant to this variance request because it does fall within the current setbacks, so.
Okay,
And the front property line is the west side. Current Leawood ordinance is 35 feet. When it was originally built, the platted setback was 30 feet. So that's why you see 2 dashed lines on that site plan.
because your frontage is on Wananga. I mean, that's, the front of the house is on one, I mean,
Street address, yes. This house sits at a corner, or a
Okay.
kitty corner you can kind of see, so it
Right.
actually faces the corner. But
okay,
And then the south property line has a current 15-foot side setback for the corner lot, but to be honest, I don't know what the original
Okay.
side setback was when it was built.
okay. So you're not really changing the footprint of the house,
That is correct, other than that little bump out, which as I mentioned,
which
is within the
doesn't really,
current setback.
it's not considered in, so we're talking about what's in yellow here.
Correct. What's in the yellow is the existing, and it's going back where it's at.
Okay,
We're not changing that.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the larger one of the two, the front setback is what we're voting on this case, correct? Just the
Yeah,
one to
this,
the
this
left.
case is on the front
But
build
the,
line,
but
correct?
the, but the little section below, that's for the side setback, that's the next case.
Okay. All right.
question, I understand what you've got highlighted in the yellow, which is the part that's violating the setbacks, as LEO says now. But the walls you're repairing, are they just the corners, or do they go clear back?
It's the entire southwest wall, so from corner to corner,
Okay,
it'll be torn out and replaced. But so the section that kind of faces northwest, that wall isn't being torn out, that'll stay. So it's just the southwest wall.
So the whole end wall is being replaced?
Correct.
Okay.
okay. And, okay, all right.
Was there deficiency in the foundation, or just?
Yeah, there's some significant cracking on each end, and then in the horizontal movement as well, because the beam has actually punched
What-
through the
Oh,
outside
okay.
face.
Was the weight of the house that caused the settling, or was it rain damage, or what was it, or a combination?
It could have been a combination or some poor subsoil conditions when it was originally built
Okay.
that didn't get compacted, but
Is there
there's also,
likelihood that other parts of the house will also have to have the same cosmetic surgery?
Not to this extent, so.
Good. Yeah, you'd want to compact it well, or put some piles in.
Little French drain action, all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Any other questions? I think we understand, at least I understand the situation. We have to go through the 5 factors because it's a variance. And I think uniqueness, I think we can address the uniqueness adequately. And I think hardship too. So, any other comments?
I'll make an editorial comment if I may. Is that allowed?
Sure.
Current LDO causes houses a priori to be unique due to lot building setbacks permitted at time of existing building construction. It's already been covered, but that's what's happening here. Any of those houses north of a certain part of Leawood, yeah, they're gonna have situations like this. So I think they meet uniqueness.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your comment.
Sure.
There's no one, is anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this application? No. Please give us your name and address.
I'm Terry Woodbury, 3001 West 83rd. I'm the president of the HOA.
Okay.
Ann invited me over, showed me at length what the situation is. The obvious is we're getting a significant improvement in a property, in a house that has some issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in general, we're glad for this, and I don't see any issue at all.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, in light of that, I think we will go through the 5 factors. You may sit down. And the first is uniqueness of the property.
I think it meets that particular,
Well, if it's got structural issues, it's got to be,
Structural
it
damage.
needs to be remedied and corrected.
yep.
Need to provide relief to the property owner.
Other
Yeah.
comments? All those who feel the uniqueness criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So we agreed on the first factor. Rights of adjacent property owners, mailings were made,
Correct, yeah, no calls or complaints have been received.
okay? In light of that, all those who feel that the second factor has been met, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We voted in the affirmative on the second factor, and third is hardship.
Well, it appears if they don't make these repairs, it's going to only become a worse situation. So I think we need to provide relief for the property owner.
They're gonna have to move into a trailer.
The city would really love that, too. All those who feel the hardship criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We voted in the affirmative on the third factor. The fourth factor is public safety and general welfare.
Mr. Chairman, I'll speak. This doesn't affect public safety and general welfare. It's basically building walls in the exact same position they've been since the building was originally, or the house was originally built.
All those who feel that the fourth factor, public safety and general welfare criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We voted in the affirmative on the fourth factor. And last is spirit and intent.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I'll speak on spirit and intent. The intent of the ordinance to protect the unique character of each neighborhood. This house was originally constructed in 1969, and approving this would place those walls in the same spots on those 2 corners, or in this case, for the front setback. So the spirit and intent would be met.
Those who feel the spirit and intent criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have evaluated the 5 factors as required and voted in the affirmative on all 5 factors. Therefore, we can support a motion for approval in this case. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve case 42-20238311 Winong Lane, request for variance to the front build line in accordance with the LDO section 16-2-5.3, parent D parent in an R1 district.
Second.
We have a motion for approval in case 42-2023 and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. And the next case, again, is for the same property. Again, this case is 43-2023, and Agan owner requests for a variance to the side build line in accordance with LDO section 16-2-5.3D in an R1 district for a property commonly known as 8311 Monongah Lane. The staff have a report.
The applicant is needing to repair and replace portions of a legal non-conforming wall. The project has significant upgrades that increase the amount of encroachment. A variance for 3.8 feet is requested to build the project as shown on the plan.
The analysis required on this case is virtually the same as the previous case.
Yes, sir.
And so unless the applicant has additional comments to make, or if there's anyone else that wishes to speak for this, I propose that we go through the 5 factors based on the previous discussion in the last case. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
I like it.
The first criterion we have to evaluate is uniqueness. Now, I'm guessing that the comments were almost exactly the same as the previous case.
Yes.
And we felt that uniqueness had
Use the same
been.
comments applicable to the first case, to this one, rather than going through this in its entirety?
That works.
What'd you say? Well, that's true. I mean, all the 5 factors that we evaluated in the previous case apply to this case. If that is acceptable to the board, we can go ahead and make a motion.
Or do you want us to go through and approve each one?
We're bypassing that.
You think we'll need-
Yes, I think you should approve each factor. You don't have to have discussion if it's the
Okay.
same discussion.
All those who feel that the uniqueness criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The rights of adjacent property owners is a second. All those who feel that that criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The hardship criterion, all those who feel that criterion is satisfied in this case, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We agreed on this third factor. The fourth is public safety and general welfare. All those who feel that this criterion has been satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The last is spirit and intent. All those who feel this criterion is satisfied, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have agreed on all 5 factors, we agreed affirmatively on the 5 factors. Therefore, we can support a motion for approval in this case.
Mr. Chairman, I approve case 43-23-8311 Winonga Road. Request for a variance to the side yard setbacks in accordance with the LDO section 16-3-5.3, print D and R1 district. Approval.
We have a
Second.
motion for approval in case 43-2023. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. You'll be officially notified in writing by the city. That is our last case for this evening. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We stand adjourned until next month.
Oh.